As Magnaza and her traveling companion Silas come to the end of a long travel day, the sun begins to set. They see a tavern in the distance and they head to it. The Bumble's getting a little nervous, for unbeknownst to our two travelers, in the dark, in the shadows, there are eyes watching. Hello and welcome to Sphere Hopper's Wanderhome. I am your host and storyteller, Royce Rosewood. We are continuing our playthrough of Wanderhome by J. Dragon using some custom solo systems that I have devised. So a couple of bookkeeping things before I forget. You might be watching this mere minutes after the previous video, but for me, in real time, it has been many, many months, just due to a variety of circumstances. But I'm excited to get back into this story. I also have a new setup that should make things easier, but I'm working that out. A couple of things. As I started to discover in the last session, I realized that the place set of moves could be turned into a table. So I've created this new table that takes moves from the place and moves from the seasons and some other things. We've got the folklore and some other pieces. And so if I need an inspiration for what's happening in the scene, I can roll 2 dice and take these two together, drawing elements at random from the elements that have been generated by the place. Oh, yes. So we're heading to Elmwind, which is the place we were headed at the end of the last episode. I have generated this off screen. And in addition, as I was thinking about what I wanted to do in this series, yes, we are exploring Magnaza's story, but there's the larger context of the other Sphere Hoppers' ongoing stories. And so there are chances that when we roll in these tables, we could trigger a lore connection. I have sort of a incomplete, non-exhaustive list of potential lore connections that we might roll up if we get to that point. It is now the monsoon season. I imagine Magnaza and Silas have been traveling together for, maybe a week and a half, maybe up to 2 weeks. They've gotten familiar with each other. Silas has learned to trust Magnaza, and they arrive at a place called Elmwind. So as we approach, let us see what are the elements that become most important as we approach. So I'm going to roll a d10 and a d20. Oops, put that in our little thing. All right, so we've got, this place can always show conflict between expectations and demand, and enveloping mists. Elmwind has the natures of workshop, hollow, and tavern. So as they approach, they see sort of a curious collection of buildings. One is obviously a tavern. There's a light on. It's warm, and they can see through the windows that there is activity on the inside. There's the clinking of plates and the smell and look of a warm fire. And then sort of adjacent to that, they hear the whirring of a loom, even this late at night. The whirring and the stitching of a machine. And as I've already said, the mists kind of are rolling in. They find a place off to the side of the tavern where Silas can board the bumbles, and out of the workshop, a little worker comes out. And just through the previous things, the cards that we drew, and then a random choice, this place is populated mostly by newts and hedgehogs and guinea pigs. So I'm going to roll this d3 to see which one a little guinea pig. A guinea pig comes out, and they've, got a very particular style of clothing distinct. If they could tell the kind of fabric, they could see it would be a very fine fabric. They've got a little hat and kind of a robe. And they come out and squeak and say, travelers, may I interest you in a fine traveling cloak? The mists are coming in, and it is very cold and damp this evening. And they display this very fine, very nice cloak. And Silas takes a look at it and says, well, ma'am, that is indeed a very fine cloak, but looks a little bit too rich for my tastes, but you should be proud of that work. Magnaza also takes a look at it and says, she's already got her, traveling cloak from her years of being a wizard hunter. It says, oh, indeed, we are simply passing through, but excellent work. And the guinea pig looks, incredibly disappointed as they board the bumbles, get them tied up or corralled, or however it's done, and they head into the tavern. And we'll roll again just to see what else we get. 5. Offer someone the chance to break the rules for ease, and brief moments of clear skies. Right before sunset, the clouds break, and there's a beautiful sunset, and everyone sort of gathers at the window, or it's maybe facing west. So that, they pull back the curtains, and everyone views this sunset. And Silas and Magnaza order some food at the tavern and eat, and they eat all the way up. And the tavern keep comes over, who is, a newt, and looks over and notices that they have totally cleaned their plates and bowls. There's not a scrap left. There is not a crumb left on either of their dishes. And the newt says, I understand that you are new here, but here in Elmwind, there is a rule that all must follow. We say, leave a scrap for the shadows. And we do this in all things, any meal, anything that we make, any story that we tell. We always leave a little bit for the shadows that creep about this place. Silas says, I'm sorry about that. These little towns have their own little customs, and I must say I know this place only by a reputation. Never stayed here before, always passed on through. So we do apologize. Magnaza says, what do you mean by shadows? And the newt says, well, there's a holy place, a hallow, on beyond into the forest there, beyond our little tavern and workshop. A little shrine. It's a special place, a holy place, a sacred place. It's just a little superstition that we have around here in Elmwind. So anyway, we're bringing in elements of things that we've generated. Magnaza is pretty interested in that. Part of this is her history of having to track down magical things and magical people in order, to hunt them. And part of this is just natural curiosity at the mention of shadows is an interesting one. So before bed, I think she is going to go off and explore. Does Silas want to come with? I don't know. We'll leave it to fate. We'll say 1 is yes, 2 is no. Yeah, Silas is interested. Magnaza says, well, we still have some light. I would like to explore this sacred place. I'd like to know more about it. Are you interested in coming? Silas says, like I said, I've never stopped here, never just happened to stop here, so sounds like an adventure to me. Like to see what they mean by these shadows, whether it's local superstition or there's something to it. So in the waning daylight, they head out into the woods. And of course, we have the mists, and it's very wet because it's been raining so much. Yeah, there is. They head off, and there's sort of a forgotten shrine. There are offerings here. There are candles and plates and bowls. But there's dirt and leaves have kind of swept over it. You can see there are scraps of fabric that have maybe been turned into little flags, little leftovers that have been stitched around. And I'm going to draw a tarot card from our patchwork deck just to see what happens here at this shrine, or if there's a message or any sort of other event that happens here. All right, so I've drawn the Page of Wands, and this one in particular has a cat with a branch, and it's wearing sort of a garland of flowers, and it looks very cute and friendly, and there are dark shadows around. So I think what this means is the sun sets and the shrine takes on this eerie quality, and things, sort of move. And as they look out of the corner of their eyes, are they seeing something? Are they imagining something? But then through the shadows sort of take the form very clearly, take the form of a cat. Now, of course, this is a world full of anthropomorphic animals, a little bit larger than a house cat, but not by much. And the eyes glow and, sort of, climb up on top of this shrine and just sort of curl around. And, it doesn't look spooky. It doesn't look creepy. It seems very friendly and inviting. Magnaza notices this, notices all the offerings, and she would like to leave an offering. She takes out a couple of coins and, puts it into one of the bowls. And this will count as leaving an offering to a smaller forgotten god. So we will get a token. The cat shadow acknowledges this offering, and then it's wearing this garland of flowers around its head, sort of takes that off and climbs down from the shrine and places it atop Magnaza's head. And Magnaza says, "Oh no, that's not for me. I don't wear silly things like that." And Silas says, "I don't know, Magnaza. You just got an offering from a shadow creature at a sacred shrine. I don't think you should pass that up lightly." Magnaza shrugs and says, "Oh, it's just silly. There are serious things about. There are serious things that we need to do." And Silas says, "Oh yeah, like what?" "The war's over, Magnaza. I know you fought in it, but there's no need for that. We can relax. We can have a little bit of fun. Why not?" And Magnaza shrugs, takes that, bows to the shadow spirit, and they head back to the tavern where things are kind of winding up for the night. Maybe the sun goes down. There's still people out. Let's roll. Let's see if we get another thing. What else is going on? Okay, 3 and 7. Okay, get a token if you work hard and sweat over your creation. And watchful eyes in the shadows. Well, we've already counted that. But watchful does have a specific meaning in Wanderhome. Okay, so in Wanderhome, watchful Kith keeps a close eye on the world around them. They are often guards, astronomers, scribes, among others. They can always point out something people missed, guard the exits, or ask, "What's that you're hiding?" Now, this is kind of a specific scenario because they are these shadows. As they head back to the tavern. Oh, what did we miss? The cat will point out something. Let's draw from our tarot deck. Oh, This is a very interesting card. This is an oracle card. It's called Wildness. It's a black and white image, and there is sort of a masked creature with horns and long hair that appears to be either wearing a dress or of some amorphous shape. There's a starry night and trees in the distance. As they head back, I think maybe Silas goes up ahead, and then in the dark, Magnaza sees the eyes of the cat again. They kind of like beckon or say, the cat turns its head in such a way that says, come this way, come this way. And Magnaza follows, and then they see this. They see, in the shadows of the forest, they see this creature, whatever it is, this masked sort of feminine face with horns. Looks like, it's probably some sort of spirit, and it's moving through the shadows. Let's see, if you work hard and sweat over your creation. Well, Magnaza wants to become a dancer, is a dancer. Her creation would be a dance. So this spirit, she just sort of follows it. She feels safe. She feels like she's been guided here. Comes to a clearing in the woods by herself. There are stars up above, enough moon to see. And the spirit, shuffles forward, moving, very slowly and gently in this clothed form, this fabric form. And as she notices the movement of the fabric, she notices a very strong similarity to the fabric that she saw at the mill on display. The masked spirit turns to her, and Magnaza steps forward, and she just sort of knows, she understands intuitively to do a dance. And so they start, she starts mirroring the masked spirit, the mask move, the head moves back and forth, and Magnaza follows, and, they start to cross and they weave in and out. And, it gets intense, right? She, now there's stomping, and there's, movement of arms, and they keep crossing and mirroring each other and circling each other in the moonlight. This goes on for quite some time until it builds to a fever pitch. They come close, and the mask kind of presses into Magnaza's face, and Magnaza steps back and stumbles. And she instinctively reaches for her sword and then stops, right? She had crossed over a line, she was dancing, she was freedom. And then, that sort of instinct in her, that veteran instinct that she was being attacked sort of took over, the masked spirit, shakes its head and just retreats backwards into the dark. And Magnaza, is dripping sweat. She's worked hard and sweated over her creation. That is another token for us. But she realizes that there are blocks that she has, these experiences that she's had might be getting in the way of, her true expression. So she heads back into the tavern, finds a room, and goes to sleep for the night. That was interesting. That was indeed wildness. I love this card. What a perfect addition. Let's see what else is on offer here. A blank and more watchful eyes in the shadows. Well, on a blank, I say we trigger a lore connection, and I also said on a doubles we trigger a lore connection. So no matter what, we're triggering a lore connection. All right, and this currently has, like I said, non-exhaustive, just things that as I've been working through the wiki, that I've sort of picked up on. It's like, oh, what was that? And we've got 15 here, so I'll roll this d16 and see what we get. 11. Larsra, the Crystal King. So that night, Magnaza has a dream, a memory. In the last episode, we talked about how, she was working for this king who had sent her to hunt these wizards. But now that the wizards were defeated, was needing some way to kind of maintain control, have some, place some fear in the populace. to be able to maintain the peace in his words. And so Magnaza thinks back and remembers, and she remembers being summoned to the court of the king, and the king saying, the common folk are practicing magic, and while we cannot say that they are wizards, I think we can use this as a threat. We can turn the populace against one another, make them fear the magic that they have. And so I am taking you and the other wizard hunters, and you are to go out and hunt out and stamp out magic among the populace. And so she has a series of memories where she's out and fighting and going out into these villages, and there are huts on fire and there are shrines on fire and people screaming, and she's got her sword. The king starts to transform the next time she sees him. He's got this crown made of crystal. And of course, this king is named Larsra. Each time that she sees him and goes back to report there's more and more crystal. His hands start to turn into crystal, and it goes up his arms until like the crystal starts to take over him. And the more that the crystal takes over his body, the more rigid and unyielding he becomes. We see him smack his crystal fist into the table and sending Magnaza out, and more fighting and more fires and more hunting of the magic populace. Magnaza wakes up again in a sweat and remembering all these things. Geez, when this stuff works out, it really works out. Oh my God. And so that morning, she and Silas have a quick breakfast. And I want to spend one of these tokens. One of them says, offers someone the chance to connect with you on a personal level. And the other one says, reveal something hidden about the person in front of you and ask them what it is. And so I think as they are setting out, I kind of want to do kind of both. They're heading out, they're, attending to the bumbles. Magnaza wants to reveal something hidden about Silas. So we're going to draw a card and see what that is. Oh. So I've drawn the Wheel of Fortune. And so we see sort of a cosmology here. We see stars, and we see a light area and a dark area, and a circle of plants. And then there are strange creatures reading books all around it. Magnaza says, she's kind of offering. She's come to trust Silas, and as they head out for the morning and are walking down the road away from Elmwind, she says, Silas, I had dreams last night. Memories. Terrible things I had done under Larsra, who is now the Crystal King. He had us hunt out any sort of magic, stamp it out. We were not hunting wizards anymore. We were against the common people. And at the time, I believed he was right. I believed that magic was evil. And now, I'm not so sure. And Silas sort of looks at her and says, yes, I can see that there is good in you, and I see that there is regret for the things that you've done. But I have to tell you, you have, caused great harm here in Heath. I remember. I am one who studies the ancient lore, who studies the ancient cosmologies and the hidden secrets. And he pulls out this little white book that might match the ones that these creatures are reading. I was thinking, like, what would this group be called? And we'll just use, they're students of the Wheel of Fortune. And he says, well, I would not call myself magical by any means. I do study the turning wheels of fate, the mysteries underneath. I may seem like a simple shepherd, but I am attuned to the changing of the seasons, the rolling of the clouds, the sprouting of the plants, the falling of the rain. I am a student to all these things, and as I lead my bumbles from place to place, I learn and I grow. And I see you, too. I do not think that we have met by accident. In fact, we students of the Wheel of Fortune believe nothing happens by accident. You have had strange encounters in the shadows, and you have memories emerging. I'm very curious to see where our friendship leads, you and I. And I think with that, we will call it there. We had a lot revealed this episode, connections, mysteries revealed, strange things happening. So I'm curious to see where we head next. Thank you so much for following along. And as we continue to expand this weird and wonderful universe of ours. So thanks for watching. And as always, keep hopping.